Circle of fifths. Well done. You made it this far. We're going to talk about this notoriously kind of heady and weird and somewhat tough to understand diagram today. What is a circle of fifths? It's, yes, this diagram, obviously, a circle that you can consult to find out how many sharps or flats a key might have and where those sharps and flats are. So obviously, in the previous couple of videos in this series, we did that same thing using different methods, right? We used a stepwise approach, and then we used a interval-based approach in order to kind of decrypt, find out how many sharps or flats a major key might have, basically what a key looks like once we've decided that we want to play it or play a song within it. But the circle of fifths does this in some different ways. It obviously shows you a steady relationship that exists between all of these keys. So like I said, or maybe I didn't, but like I said, I think it is a little bit heady. It is a little bit weird. And of course, we can always revert. We can always step back and use our other two methods, either of our other two methods, to get to the answer on any of the question marks here, which is, how many sharps does D major have? How many flats does F minor have? Whatever it might be. So like any diagram or thing on a graph, if you're mathematically inclined, it can be expressed as a formula as well as a wave on a graph. So I've kind of done that. There's another way that you could think of the circle of fifths, which you're looking at right now. Maybe here, maybe there. Not sure where I'll put it yet. But that formula would be as follows. If any given key, K, has X number of sharps, then the key that begins a fifth above that key has X plus 1 sharps. All right? Every time you start a new key, a fifth above the previous one, you're adding a sharp to the key signature, is what's called, right? So in the case of C major, as we've seen in other videos, we've got no sharps. No sharps or flats, 0. It's just the, C is for comfort zone key. It's pretty simple to play and to think about. But if we go a fifth above that, right? If we start our new key a fifth above that, which is here on G, it's got 0 plus 1 sharps. It's got 1 sharp. And let's look at what that looks like in G major. All right, 1 sharp. And then from G, if we think about which key is going to have 2 sharps? Well, again, instead of starting from G, we start from the key that is a fifth above G, and that's D. And by the way, to get to a fifth above, you can always count 7, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're at D, and you already know, without even trying, that D major has 2 sharps, right? And here it is. So it's great to know how many sharps a major key is going to have in it. But of course, you may be wondering at this point, how do I know which sharps those are? So a couple ways to do that. Let's go back to G major. And you could revert to either of the 2 other methods that we looked at in the previous video. So the stepwise one from G or from anywhere is going to go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. I'm referencing steps, whole steps and half steps from, the previous note in every case. Or the second approach was interval-based. So you could recall to yourself that we're looking at a major second from the root, and then a major third, and a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a major sixth, and then a major seventh, which invariably in G major's case is going to fall on this F sharp, and then our perfect eighth, our octave, right? But if we wanted to stick with the circle of fifths and determine this, we would simply apply the following fact to our practice. And that is this: the sharps are added in a cumulative way to every major key. What do I mean by this? It's that basically when a key has 1 sharp and then 2 and then 3, you're looking at the same one and then you're adding another and then the same 2. Let's just apply it. So in G major, that sharp is F. In D major, which we looked at, we're looking at F again, sharp, and this time a C sharp. And I'll just tell you that in A major, we're looking at 3 sharps, as we know, but which ones? F again, C again, and then a new one. C, F, and then G major. G sharp, sorry, not major. So that's what I mean by cumulative, is we're looking at the same sharps, just adding to each other, right? Not only that, but you should keep this in mind too, those sharps themselves, F sharp first being added to G major, and then C sharp and G sharp. Those sharps and all sharps in this system are themselves a fifth apart from each other. Yeah, I know, crazy, but useful to figuring this out, right? There is a mnemonic for this. It's fat cats go down alleys eating bologna. That's the one I learned when I was a kid. There are many others, obviously, but that one's pretty good. And let's not lose sight of this one thing too, which is that every key, major or minor, is going to have one of each letter notes, right? It's going to have a C, a D, an E, an F, a G, an A, and a B. Obviously, the only differentiation is that those are going to be perhaps in a different order, depending on where you start. And some of them might be sharp or flat, but it's going to have one of each. That's the way to think about it. All right, so let's get back to our keyboard and let's keep going. Let's press forward, right? So C major, no sharps, no flats. G major, 1 sharp, 2 sharps. Bring it down here. A major, 3 sharps. And by the way, for fingering, I'll go ahead and provide a link here in the description to this really great resource online that has at least one way to play each of these, to breaking it down in terms of the technique. But A major, and the next is E major, 4 sharps. Sorry. B major, 5 sharps. A fifth from B is F sharp. Okay, we're getting into starting on black notes now. F sharp, 6 sharps. Ooh, fun. Check it out. For the first time now, we have a white note sharp, and that's E sharp. Right? If I were teaching kids, I would maybe tell them that sure, black notes are sharp, white notes are natural, but no, there are obviously white notes that can be sharp. You just play that next note over. E sharp. Right? F sharp major, 6 sharps. Let's keep going. And this is our ultimate stop right here. Well, at least for this cycle. C sharp. And here there are 2 sharps that are from white notes, right? So C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp. The cool thing about C sharp major is basically, it's like C major, except that every note is sharp. It's like you're taking that entire valley and just going boom, and the whole thing is just a plateau, right? C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp. And that way it's pretty easy to actually memorize this one. So where do we go from here? We've played 8 different keys. That's not all of them. We've got 12 notes here on this keyboard. So here's where we go into some other terrain. We look back at the circle of fifths, and we're going to, instead of going clockwise, we're going to go counterclockwise into the terrain of flats. Okay, so let's start again at the very top of our circle of fifths at C major. 0 sharps, or in this case, 0 flats is how we want to think about it. And instead of going up a fifth and adding a sharp, you go up, we can go back to that formula, you can go up a fourth and add a flat. Okay? So a fourth up, which is 5 half steps, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. F major is going to have 1 flat. Okay. B flat major, I'll play it here, 2 flats. Let's pause for a second. How do I know what order? They are cumulative again. We had B flat, and then we had B and E flat. But how do I know, how to keep going? It is that mnemonic flipped around. Instead of fat cats go down alleys eating bologna, it's, I'll just show you there. Is clear enough, right? Especially if I have a little graphic there. And the mnemonic I learned for this doesn't have anything to do with felines or cured meats. It is bead GCF. Kind of a lazy mnemonic, but it works, right? Bead, like a bead. And GCF, I've heard good cello fingers for remembering that. Whatever works for you, okay? And there are obviously a bunch of mnemonics for this. Anyway, where were we? We had just played B flat major, right? With 2 flats. Okay, go fourth up. E flat major, 3 flats. B, E, A, the first 3 letters of the word bead. Play A flat major down here. with terrible fingering is what I'll do. That one had what, 4 flats? Yeah, keep going. What's a 4th up? D flat major. Oh, whoa, D flat major, wasn't that the same as C sharp major? Yes. At this point, we're getting into this weird little territory near the bottom of the circle of fifths where things overlap, right? Because basically, the circle of fifths isn't like this. I mean, it is, but really you could also think of it as being like this. See? Near the bottom, there is some overlap, right? So let's talk a little bit about why that's the case. Where were we? C sharp major has 7 sharps, or if you think of it as D flat major, we are at 5 flats. Let's actually keep going real quick, and then we'll talk more about this. F sharp major or G flat major, 6 flats or 6 sharps. This is like the weird, like, I don't know. This is like the bottom of the circle of fifths. So it has this weird characteristic. Okay, a 5th up, a 4th up rather, 7 flats. You could think of this as C major again, except that everything is flat. C flat, including C flat. Weird, right? C flat, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat. All right, so why does this overlap kind of work the way it does? Well, if we were to look at, going through all of the 7 sharps and 7 flats and accumulating them from C, we would have 14 answers, right, to our exercise the way we just did. And of course, there are only 12 notes. So that's why there's going to be a little bit of redundancy. There's just going to be some overlap there. So those keys can be thought of either way. Okay. Thank you for sticking around this far. We're basically almost done. We just have to ask ourselves the question, what about minor? Okay. Whoops. This whole other half of the dragon that we have to slay, right? The way you do this is actually pretty simple. You, let's pick a key and find out, let's start with A, right? You're like, oh, A minor. How many flats or sharps or either of them or none of them does this have? Well, for this, you want to think about what the relative major is. Relative major, okay? Which is going to be the equivalent major key that shares all 7 of the same notes. Because there is such a thing for every minor key. On the flip side, every major key has a relative minor that shares the same 7 notes as it does, okay? And to get to a relative major, it's very consistent how you do this. You just go up 3 half steps. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So C major, how many sharps and flats does C major have? As we recall, C major, the comfort zone key, 0. So A minor is similarly going to have 0 sharps or 0 flats. All right. What about B minor, right? Well, you go 0, 1, 2, 3, D major. Okay, it's got, let's look at the chart here. It's got 2 sharps. So B minor will also have 2 sharps. Apologies again for the terrible fingering. Not only that, but it'll have the same 2 sharps, right? C and F in this case. That's how you do minor. Again, like so many things that I tell you about on this channel, it's a lot of information. Applying it is a whole other story, but I leave that to you. And then finally, let me go ahead and just say this, which is that we've looked at these 3 kind of increasingly complex and powerful approaches for finding out basically what a major key looks like, what a scale looks like, what a minor key looks like, what the scale looks like. But I would argue that there is also a 4th method for this, or a 4th approach, which is going to sound a little facetious, but it's basically just know. You could think of all these other 3 approaches as one, they give you certain insights, they reveal something about music theory to you, and they give you this extra interesting knowledge. But also, you can also think of all of them as just crutches, as mnemonics for getting to your answer. So really, what I'm saying here is it's worth memorizing all of these, at least at some point. If you're not into rote study, then obviously you can just, play songs, and whenever you're playing a song that's in a different key, think to yourself, okay, what key is this in? How many sharps and flats are in there? What does the scale really look like? That way, it'll help you, compose stuff within it that's, on sides in the same key, or improvise stuff that's in that same key. All right, I think it's everything. So good job. See you soon.